everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. Hi, Sushant. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Sushant, I think over the past couple of weeks, we have seen a lot of events happening around the progression of metabolic disorders, and different people have lots of different opinions. Some say that CGM is the ideal way to track your blood sugar levels.
Mm.
Some are saying that we will track your HbA1c and then we will optimize your blood sugar levels through medicines and by giving their such some kind of a diet plan, and some are claiming that they are going to help people through probiotics for metabolic disorders, right? So Sushant, I think we time and again on diabetes we've already created a lot of content, and we've also marked the significance of oral health, how it is going to impact the diabetes. So folks, today we will be coming up with some interesting facts about diabetes and how your mouth is the starting point of for the progression of diabetes. So, Sushant, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, we all know that diabetes is an early inflammatory risk for a lot of diseases, whether it is chronic kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, right? Uh, Sexual health issues like erectile dysfunction are also, since we have found out also, it is an early risk factor for oral cancer. And that's why we have built this, probably build this predictive glycemic response in our oral cancer also, which we have already providing with our gut and on our full body biochemistry solution, right? So essentially, we know everyone knows sugar is bad, right? And sugar is one of the reasons why hemoglobin HbA1c is nothing but sugar stuck on hemoglobin. So essentially, a lot of people who have an high HbA1c, there are companies who will say stop eating carbohydrates and then your HbA1c will go down. Even doctors do that, right? And they will say your diabetes reversed. That's our typical, bullshit story with
But
these companies.
Sushant, when they are saying that their HbA1c has gone down, so does it actually means it has okay? We have seen that there is an impact
See, you have
after
to
following the
understand
low
what is
carb diet.
HbA1c. What is HbA1c? It is glycated hemoglobin. It is sugar sticking on your hemoglobin. So sugar is very sticky. Chip
Yes,
chipa,
it
right?
is.
Right?
It is.
So
It is.
right? So if you don't eat carbohydrates, there is no sugar, you have no glucose you're consuming. So their HbA1c goes down, and we say
But then what
reverse
after
diabetes.
the time you can just restrict it for some time, but when they
Then
start,
again, it will come back. Then again, it will come
okay,
back, right? So
okay,
ideally, it is the HbA1c is the last stage of metabolic syndrome. I've repeated it numerous times that it is
yes,
the last stage, and first insulin spike, then glucose spikes in this, and then the glucose spike. That's why our focus is on identifying uh, the specific
predictive glycemic
molecules
response.
which is causing your insulin spike before you consume it. That's why predictive glycemic. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on your buying your CGMs right here. So it's based on your inflammatory pathways, whether it is gut microbiome or microbiome, right? Or it is a mitochondrial dysfunction, whatever it is. Right? So essentially, so the point of discussion today is very, we unknowingly are developing uh, diabetes, right? And we do not know, and we think, oh, मैं sugar नहीं खा रहा हूँ, I'm eating good carbohydrates, I'm uh, I am eating fiber, I'm eating a lot of protein, so I'll not develop
Last
diabetes.
time we also highlighted the seed oils which are responsible for
Yeah, so
diabetes,
I'm going to
right?
talk about that
That's
also today, right? So there are two things here. One is I'm going to talk about the role of mitochondria here, right? And a cellular function, right? And also talk about the what happens, the things we are putting in the top of the digestive tube, right? Is making us develop diabetes. So people, uh, let us start with a very controversial thing right now, right? And we will talk about the facts and cellular health at the end of the talk, right? So ideally, more than 55% the Indians have to decay, right? So people may say it is because of consumption of sugar. Yeah, it is because your what happens. It is not sugar, but when you consume sugar, your microbes in your mouth convert sugar into lactic acid and succinic acid, which reduces your oral pH level. So the lower the pH level, right, the more opportunity pathogens have to dominate your mouth ecosystem, right? So essentially that is one thing. Other is obviously wrong toothpaste, taking a lot of even artificial sweeteners have the same concept, right? So these microbes do not know they encounter something sweet and they convert into these acidic forms and these things your pH level. So again, people would say, okay, do not take artificial sweeteners, or probably take artificial sweeteners. It is a good alternative for sugar, but we have time and again found that it can be carcinogenic. It can change your oral structure. So it can be carcinogenic, not directly but indirectly. So it could change your mouth pH level. And I've discussed this. I think we discussed this in our oral in root canal talk that the best environment for cancer cells to proliferate and grow is the low uh, oxygen, low pH, and low voltage environments, right? So low pH environment is the biggest. So that is one of the reasons. And obviously the toothpaste which you use, the fluoride which you're using, which is again disrupting your oral microbiome, causing tooth decay. And again, out of that 55% of the people who have tooth decay, around 30%, go for tooth fillings, which is again silver amalgam fillings, right? And so silver amalgam fillings, 50% of them is elementary mercury, right? So every time we have these fillings, and it's not a one-time thing. Probably you would go for fillings once in a year or once in 6 months, sort of, right? I'm not sure because I've never gone that. I don't remember last time I actually visited dentist maybe for my tooth issues maybe 30 years ago. Right? So I've not gone to a dentist since then, right? Since my childhood days, right? So I'm not sure, but the point is that this mercury accumulates in your mouth. It can cross. So it is for adults. It can cross your blood-brain barrier, go to brain. It gets stored in your hypothalamus. We know the HPA axis, right? Hypothalamus pituitary adrenal glands, which activates your stress, right? So essentially regulates your stress. So it regulates your glucose homeostasis during the stress condition. So when you have this thing, there's a high stress level. So HPA release cortisol to suppress cortisol, the stress. You generally your behavior changes. You try to eat a lot of sugary stuff and a lot of processed foods, right? Which gives you dopamine again, which gives you reward, and then your body may release serotonin on dopamine, which gives you a feel good factor, and you continue eating more of this, and that's how you have this sort of condition of insulin intolerance, insulin resistance, right? And that's the starting point of diabetes and pre-diabetes. That is one of the factors which causes type 2 diabetes. Other is, this mercury. And by the way, you also get mercury, methyl mercury from fish you eat, right? From the aquatic protein or fat you eat, there is a lot of mercury. Yeah. So, yeah. So seafood and. So that is also, so there's a lot of this mercury is toxic, right? And the biggest target. So I'm going to explain to couple of things here, a couple of biochemistry functions here, right? So one is the primary target of mercury is kidney. So there is nephrotoxicity, right, which leads to programmed cell death of the kidney cells, right? And again, it leads to oxidative stress. We know it leads to oxidative stress. It oxides your tetrahydrobiopterin, which is again an cofactor for nitric synthase to produce nitric oxide. And we know when we do not have nitric oxide, there is an hyperglycemia, hyperinsulinemia, and type 2 diabetes, right? So that is another angle. The third angle is, uh, again, through oxidative stress, it causes pancreatic beta cell dysfunction, right? So you have type 2 diabetes for sure. Then it also suppresses an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase, right? And this is required for minimizing your lipid peroxidation, right? So lipid peroxidation is something which is a chain of free radicals because of damage of your phospholipid of your cells, right? So essentially here you will come about the fat discussion also, right? So these are some of the ways. So this leads to ferroptosis. We have discussed about ferroptosis also. Ferroptosis leads to mitochondrial dysfunction, leads to a lot of oxidative stress and again onset and progression of type 2 diabetes, right? And even cancer situation, right? So that is, so these are the a few things from the mercury perspective. So we are consuming a lot of mercury, knowing it is really toxic, right? And again, it also suppresses your nitric oxide production, the inorganic nitrate in your mouth, right? So you will have oxidative stress and there is no nitric sulfate. You will have hypertension. You will have high blood pressure, right? So the point is that when it comes to diabetes management, people are just focused only on carbohydrates, right? Just by telling you eat complex carb or those are dietary fiber polyphenols is going to help you reverse diabetes is just one of the way. You have to understand the root cause. It could be your oral cavity, it could be your tooth decay, it could be your oxidative stress inflammation, it could be mitochondrial dysfunction, right? Low production of nitric oxide, gut dysbiosis, right? So there are multiple factors into play, right? So those who do not know how nitric oxide is, probably, your as your body senses something, carbohydrate, again, the role of microbiome, which sends a chemical signal. So your pancreas is insulin bind to most of the insulin receptors on fat cells, muscle cells, liver cells, and again, there's a signaling cascades. The signaling cascades tells your nitric synthase to release GLUT4. GLUT4 is a protein which binds to glucose and clears of the circulation, transfer to cells for storage energy, right? And to activate this GLUT4, we need nitric oxide, right? Nitric oxide is a signal which tells GLUT4 to bind glucose, go to cell membrane, bind glucose, and clear from the circulation. So again, nitric oxide production is not going to make you develop type 2 diabetes. Right? So focus is on stimulating the production of nitric oxide when it comes to type 2 diabetes. Again, mercury is one of those toxic metal which causes oxidative stress, which causes inflammation, which kills your beta cells, which leads to ferroptosis, which leads to apoptosis, which leads to programmed cell death, right? It leads to further lipid periodization, which is again is a chain of free radical, right, happening. So again, that is something, and it suppresses nitric oxide production. So these are the things which are linked to your oral hygiene, right? Your toothpaste could make you develop type 2 diabetes, can make you develop hypertension, can make you develop high blood pressure, can make you develop cardiovascular disease, can also make you develop erectile dysfunction both in men and women, right? So essentially, uh, so these are few things which have to be considered, which has been avoided, and that's why Indian Dental Association has clearly mentioned that 90% of Indian adults have a major oral health disease, and since the top of digestive tube, it is linked to everything inside our body, right? So people who are saying that we are doing gut microbiome testing and we are just doing microbial DNA, bullshit, waste of money, because until as you first of all you do not focus on the function of the microbiome, that microbiome also see what is happening in the mouth, right? So and then see how it is interacting with the mitochondria. So these are the three legs which you have to cover when it comes to your understanding your biochemistry, right? So that is one of the aspects. So if you have any questions on this metal toxicity, probably we can discuss and
No,
then we
I
can go
think
on the
I
fact.
think most people who have been from the science background, and
Mhm.
many people, I mean, do know that mercury is a toxic metal. It
Mhm.
should not come under in any human form. It should not be consumed. So I think you can continue. Yes.
Yeah. So second thing is, why diabetes is going wrong is obviously you're using CGM to track your glucose response to various food, which is again a end result of inflammation happening either in the mouth and the gut, right? So this inflammation could lead to spike or probably low level of bitrate, high level of LPS, CMO, number of things, right? But the biggest factor which could accelerate your onset and progression of type 2 diabetes is wrong fats, right? We discussed this, right, during peroptosis discussion also, that there is a fat called, you know, pentadeconic acid C15, which we get from our dietary dairy fats as well, right? And there's something on 4 and 5 mg we need in a circulatory level, right, which comes from 1 to 3% of the dairy fat, right? So foods such as butter, ghee, milk, right? These are a great source of this, and the function of this, it maintain the structure and fluidity of the cell membrane, right? So it acts as a bilayer of lipid bilayers of the cell membrane, right? So it maintains the cell structure, so that allows the cells to sense what is going outside of itself, to to facilitate intercellular signaling, to you know uh, do mitochondrial biogenesis, to produce nitric oxide, right? to activate GLUT4, whatever it is, right? So essentially, you need these fats. So when you are consuming a lot of seed oils, canola oil, corn oil, grapeseed oil, right? Rapeseed oil, all these which are polyunsaturated fat, omega-6, which reacts with oxygen very quickly. And when you are eating a lot of fast foods and these burgers and all these made in hydrogenated oil on these vegetable oils which are overheated, so it speed up your oxidative stress process, and oxidative stress, it suppresses your tetrahydrobiopterin and oxides your tetrahydrobiopterin. It leads to endothelial dysfunction and nitric oxide suppression, nitric oxide suppression, and you have type 2 diabetes. So it's a wrong notion, and unfortunately we have seen this recent nutrition recommendation which is saying do not eat saturated fat. Bullshit. Saturated fat doesn't react with oxygen. It's double bonds polyunsaturated fat which reacts with oxygen. So your fat consumption should primarily consist of saturated fat and monounsaturated fats, right? So butter, ghee, right? These are great source. Olive oil, great source. Coconut oil, great source, right? So avocado oil, great source. See, these are the things which should be part of your diet because it maintains your cell structure. So again, you understand your brain is made up 80% brain is made up of fat. Your cells need fats, lipids, and cholesterol for its function, right? So this is really, really important to understand that if you're consuming too much of polyunsaturated fat, you're not consuming saturated fat because someone has told you that saturated fat is bad, it could lead to weight gain, do not eat ghee, do not eat probably, and ghee is one of the factors which stimulates the production of short chain fatty acids, right? So again, you have to have these fats in your diet. You should not consume mercury. That is very, very clear, right? Even when you are in cancerous situation, probably, and just touch a basic thing about it. So your cancer cells, when there's low pH environment or there's mitochondrial dysfunction, your cancer cells, for the survival mechanism, it would lead to restrictive, mitochondrial oxidative metabolism, right? And most of the energy would be used towards fermentation to produce lactate fermentation, right? So essentially, uh, the two sources are glucose and glutamine, right? And again, if you have developed cancer and you're going for a lot of these therapies, you should have good amount of fat in your diet. So I don't need a lot of these only ghee or butter. So there are a lot of vegetables, fat soluble vegetables, right? Having fat soluble
I
vitamins, right?
think fat
Cellulose.
soluble vitamins they're there, like ADEK.
Yeah. So and a lot of nuts and seeds, right? So you have to eat a lot of dietary fats, right? That doesn't feed your cancer cells, right? So obviously it is not killing your cancer cells, right? So they are, because if you have these cancer cells grown and you have not decoded it before, probably you don't have system in place to decode it. So you have to go for certain therapies to get rid of your, growing cancer cells. And again, to suppress them and so stop them from growing, probably you need to change your dietary choices, right? Again, you to maintain that cell structure, right? And again, that is the reason why our oral cancer test focuses on identifying the signals before the tumor grows so that you can eliminate them, which is in your control. So you don't need to
The
go for therapy.
early signals, early
Yeah.
inflammatory signals that could lead to the cancer situation.
Yeah. So early signals can tell you you're going to develop cancer and probably you're not developed one right now, but you are in process, and then you can eliminate them through nutrition. So you don't need to, spend too much of money on chemotherapy and a lot of these things, right? So these are the two things which should come. So it applies to your type 2 diabetes, apply to cardiovascular disease, apply to chronic kidney disease. I mentioned how mercury impacts your kidney function, it impacts your liver function, it impacts your metabolic health, impacts your pancreatic beta cells, it impacts your brain function, right? So do not go for amalgam fillings, right? Rather, if you're tooth decay, understand, fix your oral microbiome rather than going for these treatments, right?
Yeah, I
So
think
that
that's
is,
pretty interesting to know that even these therapies could lead, because earlier we had spoken about root canal, how root canal will, it will disengage your nerves
mm,
and the blood flow towards that organ. that
Yeah,
will be disrupted, right? And this is again, it is very surprising for everyone to know that even these fillings could lead to such situations because of the presence of mercury toxicity, right?
see, it is our body is smart. It it try to avoid a lot of things, try to rebalance your biology, but if you keep on feeding with toxins, probably they give up after some time. So you may not get to know whether you have fillings and those fillings are causing, are killing your pancreatic beta cells or maybe disrupting the HPA axis and you're making you eat a lot of carb, changing your carbohydrate metabolism, right? Or lipid metabolism. And again, that is something which is a lot of people, even if you go to endocrinologist or diabetes, they would also do not know about this, right? Or maybe even dentists do not know. And this is the, one of the worst thing I've ever heard, right? If you have diabetes, you go to diabetologist. If you have, that's if you go to gastroenterologist. Everything is connected, right? You don't need to have a specialty here, right? When it comes to chronic disease, it means addressing an organ, you're addressing a symptom, you're not addressing the underlying cause.
I think that is more has to do with the reductionist biology approach that we used
Yeah,
to, speak
yeah.
about, because every specialty it is focusing on that particular organ. It is not looking at from where it is coming. It is not finding the root cause, and it is not even addressing what other outcomes this thing could have in an
Mm, mm,
individual's body, right? So I think
yeah.
this is what actually we at Gene Freeletics are addressing, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
Sushan, thank you. This was a very amazing discussion. Any last words you would like to add here?
So yeah, understand your mouth is the gateway for oral health. Please take care of your oral hygiene. Do not buy toothpaste which are high in fluoride and SLS and other artificial sweeteners. Brush twice a day, 2 minutes, at least for 2 minutes when you are brushing. You have to do uh, flossing, you have to do scraping, at least once a day, right? If you are eating probably sugar, right? Immediately after, maybe 30 minutes after that, please brush your teeth, right? Uh, and again, do not understand, oh, I've eaten just 5 grams of sugar, it is not going to impact. So, your microbes in your mouth convert into acetic acid and lactic acid, changes your mouth ecosystem. It is going to trigger tooth decay, gum disease linked to type 2 diabetes, gum disease even linked to oral cancer, number of things, right? So do not fall for such things, please, and actually focus on fixing your oral health rather than just going for these feelings. Yeah.
So thank you. With this, we have come to the end of this podcast. Thank you, Sushan, and for all our
And another
listeners.
thing I wanted to announce, on 16th of August, we would be doing a live demonstration of our oral cancer platform where we'll be showcasing, what all pathways we are decoding, what we are measuring, how we are arriving at nutrition recommendation, how we can help you prevent cancer, right? So it would be a very interesting showcase of our platform, right? Which is again first of its kind in India. Nobody is actually working on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Sushan. That is
Thank you.
indeed going to be very helpful. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.